Thank you, Stanley. It's an honor to be here and to be introduced by you. I'm also a cardiologist. I'm going to talk to you today about how our vision of digital health is part of the everything, and I'll try to spend 20 minutes talking about that. But a good place to start is to, when you're thinking about integrating health into the everything else that we do that's connected in the connected world, is to start talking about a discussion with mobile. So if what we want to do is scale healthcare and healthcare experiences, what better connected device to do that on than mobile, with basically mobility being ubiquitous, and in many emerging economies, internet-connected phones will take the place of any computer. So mobile subscribers will outnumber the world population, and internet-connected phones are often referenced. So if you want to change healthcare to a connected, continuous experience for the consumer, the patient, or the pre-patient, then what better device to utilize? And the expectation is that this is going to be a big market, which means investment in technology and new businesses. One of the places that we like to start this discussion, and as a cardiologist, an obvious, is in the area of biosensors. And that's one of the sort of first generation products in mobile health. The idea that we're going to have societies that are passively collecting their biometric data, integrating that into other experiences, and creating this large archive of health information that will allow us to use sophisticated analytics to create all sorts of experiences, both for health. Maybe the health part isn't the main monetization stream, but for many other things that we do in daily life. And a lot of that is about connectivity. If you're going to use a mobile connected device to create a health experience, why not leverage off of things that we know are enormously successful and create amazing and durable experiences for people, like Facebook, and already have 1 billion people on it. So people hear us say that and say, but what do you mean? What is the power of social media? And this is just one very simple example of Facebook announcing that it would allow people to register for organ donation. For instance, in the case of heart transplants, there are only about 2,500 organs available every year in the United States, and many, many people die in hospitals waiting for organs. And the big limitation to organ availability is people not signing up to donate their organs. So within a couple of weeks, Facebook had established many more state-registered organ transplant donors than had happened in 10 years through traditional metrics like going to the DMV and declaring that you'll be an organ donor. And that's just one small example of being able to scale and leverage these social platforms. We'll talk about some others. Lots of people have talked about health gaming in different ways. We don't envision health gaming as some sort of sequestered game just for diabetics or kids with cystic fibrosis, but how do you develop a very popular social game, say across a Farmville type concept, that allows the diabetic or the child with cystic fibrosis to integrate their disease and themselves into what they're already doing and playing and invite their friends? How do you integrate that experience, and in doing so create a new kind of digital health literacy for children and comfort and their community? So we envision the future as sort of having a Facebook of medicine with all these other ruthlessly efficient digital tools that we use. And these can be hardwired into commercial tablets or phones as a sensor-driven offering, or they can be purposed in many different ways. Because we know that patients own their biometric data. Whether they'll want to give that away for free to the cloud, the kind of wiki concept of freedom of biometric information, or how that will end up is unknown. But we do own our biometrics. At least if you use the case of an implanted device, a heart device, the information from that device is most likely owned by the patient, best as we can tell. And patients want to engage. We know that most people right now in the world go onto the internet, and there are some pretty shoddy internet sites that are the main source of medical information and medical content for people all over the world. When I say shoddy, I mean when we've evaluated them, no matter what they are, they're only about 67% accurate, but they may be the only thing that comes up when you do a search in Gambia, eHow. The same site that tells you how to baste a turkey, may be the only medical content site. So people are using the internet for content, and content is also an enormous opportunity because there's a great appetite for medical content. So patients want access to data. They want a relationship with their doctor that could very well be virtual, but it should be continuous. And they need to be able to understand their personal health. The great thing about mobility also is that digital literacy can surpass real literacy. You don't have to know how to read to be a digitally literate patient interacting with biometrics. So you could even potentially jumpstart the need, I think, for literacy with a lot of these healthcare solutions. And clearly, we want to liberate information. This is the era of democratization of information, and you don't want the least accessible person controlling the information. So the global system is ready. There's worldwide wireless, there's ubiquitous mobile, high definition video appropriate for many medical uses, storage is cheap, cloud-based data analytics are there. How do you engage? Much of the effort in mHealth now, I think, is so engineering driven, which is fine, but the only durable home run product that's really going to get to the consumer, pre-healthcare consumer, has to create engagement. And I think as many people as are investing in the engineering side of things need to start investing in the engagement side. And that's what our Center for Body Computing does. It brings together the multiple disciplines, not just carriers like Vodafone, but real storytellers like those that exist in our School of Cinematic Arts, to be able to relate to people. There's no more engaging story than your own healthcare story or emotional one. What are the tools that professional storytellers use to engage people continuously that will make both medical content, medical experiences, ongoing care sticky for people? Because unless people are continuously interacting, the cloud won't be as rich. So this is sort of my idealized version of what that would look like for me. An iPhone case that has maybe an ECG thing on it, Scrabble that I like, Facebook Medical. My husband's a Bronco fan, my son's a Chargers fan, and then but my medical life is completely integrated with the rest of my life. The health is part of everything in the way that many things we currently do are: our news, our sports, our finances, our social community. We work a lot with athletics because we're interested in biometrics, and athletics is a great place to study the use of worn sensors, and both to enhance athletic performance and to try to understand risk in athletes, prevent injuries. So we've spent a lot of time in our own USC athletes. This is our football team. We've removed their tattoos because the NCAA doesn't let you identify an athlete when you study them. And what we've learned just from recording single heart rate from football players who are very different athletes on the playing field, one single game, is really more understanding that we've had in trying to learn the cardiovascular performance of athletes on the playing field in a long time. So I think there's a lot of promise. But in terms of the user experience that I've been talking about and engagement, if you take, say, a student athlete, like a USC Division I athlete, they're semi-professional athletes and they're students, they're very busy. And one of their problems is finding their zone, their resiliency, teaching them to become literate and educated about when they're going to perform the best, either on the playing field or in the classroom. So what we're evolving is the sense that we'll use body-worn sensors or sensors intrinsic to a phone, in this case a case, and we'll allow the athlete to mash up everything they're doing in their life, passively measured ideally, their sleep, what they're drinking, what they're eating, how they're performing, self-identify how they feel, to simply have a gauge to find their zone, whether it's a test-taking zone or performance zone. We've explored this with elite athletes using sensors like the Zephyr sensor that will allow you to grab a sophisticated array of biometrics to really be able to finally distinguish athletic fitness within groups of even very elite athletes, to give them actionable data as to how to prevent injury and how to best perform. This is can you play the video? Just a clip from a recent CNN piece we did. So Sanjay Gupta, who's a real gamer, came and worked out in this athletic facility with Nick Swisher and Tommy Haas, the tennis player, all wearing the Zephyr sensor. And what we were able to do is real-time display their biometrics, the energy expenditure, the mechanical load, and compare these various athletes under these settings and be able to realize, you can turn it off for a second. That's Nick Swisher, who's now an Indian, was a Yankee. You can stop the video, but we were able to realize that a tennis player like Tommy Haas, who maybe only has a heart rate of 35 and maybe only gets up to 75, but really needs to work on his foot speed, may need to cardiovascularly decondition to reconditioned for the needs of his aging tennis career, or that Nick Swisher has a kind of a brilliance best biometric in one thing, which is pace off a wall, but is basically not able to compete with any of these athletes in other metrics. So the kind of insight that you can gain from these continuous collection is pretty remarkable. Similarly, in the warfighter, again, the same sensor. You could use a very similar sensor, and this sensor has been purposed in the military as well as medical. Very important when you're working in a team to figure out which person on that team is in their zone or resilient. Understand the factors that constitute resiliency and make real-time action on the basis of that data that is mobile, that you can liberate to the teams, whatever team you're on. And then the digital of everything means that these portable experiences that are continuous and digital, whether you want to access them or not, have to be everywhere. So the car is a great place and wonderful. I always think what we're trying to do in digital health is sort of what the cars have already done. There are about 200 sensors in everybody's car, even more in elite cars like BMWs, and the car tells you when it's going to get sick. It tells you when to go in before anything happens to it. Why can't we have that experience in a car? When you get a diagnosis of hypertension from your doctor at age 50 and you're in denial, why not go in your car, measure your blood pressure, understand that that music on the radio or the temperature can impact it, interact with your health in a way that's non-threatening, and then maybe either you lower your blood pressure or you become much more willing and open to going on a drug to control your blood pressure. But that same blood pressure metric can be integrated into your music listening experience, your entertainment experience, and purposed in many different ways. This is something that we developed with a design firm we worked with. Again, lots of time on the patient engagement piece. What are these applications over mobile that are really going to stick? This is an application we developed for patients that have implantable defibrillators. There are many of these patients, and the defibrillator is like a BMW in your chest. Many sensors, it's able to tell you a lot, but patients have them implanted. They're $20,000 to $30,000 devices, and then they get them randomly checked. But the device itself is being checked every day because it has an antenna on it. Patients go home with a little communicator, and it dumps data to a network that only doctors interact with. That seems like a waste. So how to leverage this device to really engage patients and not just help them manage their potential arrhythmia risk, but help them manage the entirety of their condition, which in this case is mostly heart failure. So with this app that we developed, again, with people who know about the user experience and what creates engaging and durable behaviors, this application that's centered around your wireless device that has lots of rich sensors can tell you when to take your medications, allow you to input how you feel after those medications, record your symptoms and emotions, share those with your caregiving team, your daughter in Vermont, whoever is helping manage your condition, your food, and your physical activity. So the things that are really pertinent to your life. And how do you make it sticky? How do you get people continuously interacting with it? Well, we landed on some sort of fundamental principles. Obviously, you need intelligent analytics and algorithms, which the device largely has already. You need exception-based reporting, so you're not getting a lot of noise about things that aren't clinically important. The concept of a health coach or life coach, that the device is a surrogate that is your absolute advocate that is helping you be the best you can be, is a very powerful concept that's tested well with patients and families for us. And this idea that there's this constant discovery, because the device, just like a wearable sensor, is picking up so much rich data that it can progressively disclose to you things you didn't know about yourself. It's almost like an application like Lose It, where you're just tracking the food and you have this revelation that I didn't know that I ate that much because I'm actually tracking my food. But this is that on steroids. This is really being able to tell patients every day or every experience, because it's collected that much more data, something they didn't know about themselves, that discovery process. Another thing that we've been more and more compelled by is the availability of video over mobile. So everybody you may forget what your doctor told you, but you remember your favorite movie or commercial, and it sticks with you, and you just learn it because it connects with your brain in a different way. So how do we use the phenomenal success of YouTube, with most young people using it as their primary entertainment video, and the flexibility of it, the short content of it, and the popularity of it? How do we leverage that for health? We asked a YouTube food channel that's run by a good friend of mine that just started, a guy who's kind of a digital media guru. How can we use your YouTube stars that have 50 or 100,000 followers, a very organic, different kind of celebrity than we're used to thinking about celebrity, to help us help a diabetic managing blood sugar, diet, activity, insulin requirements? How do we create something that allows that diabetic to do what they most need to do, which is keep a constant carb diet? So this is a very popular YouTube chef called Danny Spies, who helped us create this 5-minute video that solves a very common problem for diabetics. So can we play this, please?
Hey guys, I'm Danny Spies. Now, as you know, it's important that any insulin-dependent diabetic maintains steady carb intake all throughout the day. So today I want to share with you some simple, delicious, nutritious, carb-friendly recipes that can all be made in under 5 minutes. The secret to these quick meals is taking the time on the weekend to make one head start ingredient that you can then use as the base for the rest of your meals all week long. Today, that ingredient is brown rice, which is great news, guys, because it couldn't be any easier to make.
So you can stop there.
Now, I know how crazy.
So with this inexpensive 5-minute for each meal video, a diabetic can figure out for a week how to create a constant carb diet. When we released this, and we showed it at our conference, the first day 4,000 hits. So talk about being able to scale digital health products and then meeting real needs of diabetic patients, the health of everything. We work with a lot of mobile sensors. As I mentioned, this was something we just showed. It's a medical student, so he was kind enough to show us to show an audience at our conference how hard it is to get a 12-lead EKG and how long it takes and how expensive it is. It requires a machine, and we demonstrated that with an iPhone case and a smart pen, we could get a 12-lead EKG in seconds. And he reported the results of a trial we just did showing that we could get a mobile single lead and 12-lead ECG 90% more efficiently at 90% of the cost. And we're studying this technology in very large segments of the population. Finally, another very popular social network we've become interested in is photo sharing in social media. I mean, this is something that it has exploded just within the last year or so, with 16 billion photographs shared. So if what we want to do are build large biometric clouds of data so we can provide rich analytics and predictive algorithms and provide people with continuous health experiences, this can't all just be for medical purposes. It has to be part of the everything. So what we worked on and with our electrical engineering students was the ability to take a biometric like heart rate just by holding your phone. Most people take photos from their phone that are using Instagram, and to be able to attach your heart rate into a photo sharing app. So suddenly what you're saying is I curate photos through a social network that's enormously popular, that has an aesthetic to it, and I'm attaching my heart rate to it as a way to show you how I'm feeling, as another window to understanding and to enhance this experience of social photo sharing. And it's much more of an aesthetic, personal understanding, community understanding experience than it is a biometric. But at the same time, you suddenly got 10 million 17-year-old heart rates that you've archived. And these kids will have a richer, larger health record than any high-end cardiac patient will ever have in their whole life from recorded ECGs. So this is sort of the vision. You can see these were people at our conference. We can locate them, and they have fun with it. It's a totally different experience than going to a cardiologist and getting your heart rate or anything else. So this is how we see this area really exploding and getting sort of entrenched within the popular culture for the good of global health. We announced at TEDMed that we want to try to collect the heartbeat of everybody in the world digitally, mostly over mobile, in the next several years, and we're working hard to do that through innovations like this to start to build these experiences and data clouds. Thank you very much.